Okay, welcome everyone. This is Jim Spohrer with ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals. On the call with me right now is Steve Kwan, one of our ISSIP fellows, a professor emeritus from San Jose State University as well, longtime contributor to ISSIP. Cecilia Lee is the host for this series, AI as a Service, but she's been pulled away, so she asked us to push on and create this recording, and maybe this is just kind of a dress rehearsal for a redo that we'll do with Cecilia down the road. But let me share my slides because I did prepare some slides. Cecilia asked some great questions, I thought, so I want to go ahead and share those. I've got to move a few windows out of the way so I can open the slides. And here we go. So yeah, I'll just share with you that again, this is AI as a Service. It's the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals. This is part of our 2026 ISSIP Ambassador hosted speaker series. The host, Cecilia Lee, again, drawn away at the last minute, but will be on these in the future. And she did ask me to be the first guest in her series. And as I was preparing for this, Cecilia asked some great questions. And I just want to review these questions and my short answers to them. There's a whole presentation here, this recording, and the presentation will be uploaded. And I believe, like, my next slide is, and this is why it's great Steve Kwan is on, is some material that Steve shared with me. So we'll get into a discussion very shortly, Steve. Um, but the first question she asked is, what is my definition of AI as a service? So she'll be asking all of us this. And, depending on whether you're an economist or a computer scientist or a service dominant logic person, service science person, you're going to come up with different definitions of this and different categories. So it's going to be interesting to compare these as we go further into the speaker series. But to me, any technology, and AI is a technology, right, is just a resource. And what you have to ask about a resource is, how do I access the resource? And this, of course, these days is a digital offering in the cloud. Um, Via value propositions from the owners. So you have to ask, what is the value proposition? A lot of them have a free tier and then a paid tier. And who are the owners? And we all know, OpenAI and Anthropic and all the big players who are putting out these digital service, this AI as resource. Um, and how can we understand this concept from a value co-creation perspective? I think it's imperative that we think of it in terms of macro society, value co-creation, meso, the business and the owners, and micro, the individual. And I'll get into that more. But really, this is um, a technology that actors at all responsible actors at all scales have to have value propositions associated with this from a service innovation perspective. Um, she then asked how AI practitioners see this and how the concept may manifest. Um, and for this one, I'd like to just say AI is still not very good. I will get into this in a bit, but I have a long history. I studied my PhDs in artificial intelligence from the 1970s, so I've been with this field a long, long time. And the AI that we have today is impressive but imperfect, and it's still, we're going through this adjustment period where the technological capabilities are improving rapidly. And I have a few slides to help, drive that point home that AI is still not very good, and it's going to get better though. And through this adjustment period, we're going to see the technological capabilities increasing rapidly. Her next question is kind of complicated, but I'll just say again, a lot of Cecilia's questions about AI as a service need to be looked at from a macro, big picture, society, meso, industry, business, and a micro individual perspective. And I did for this one, AI as a service, enabling innovation. I think there are a lot of lessons from history, and there's some questions that I have that we can answer. As far as the last question she asked, the evolution of AI in business in our society so far, um, This is where I have a few slides dealing with the problems, technical problems associated with AI today that will be solved, I think, over the next 5 or 10 years, and two big societal risk factor problems that will also be solved. And there is this nice uh, report from Sequoia, a venture capital firm, by Beck on services, the new software in the AI era. And I'll get into that in just a minute. I'll be right back. Hold on one second. Okay, thank you. Um, so let's get into it. If you're an economist or an industry leader, you're probably going to look at this AI as a service from the perspective of companies that deliver AI as a service and companies that deliver AI software. And so Steve Kwan did a great service to the speaker series kickoff by sending out some great reports from Gartner. I've got just a little bit of the headlines here of the documents Steve sent me, but I think this is the key chart. And Steve, since you sent this to me, um, what is your takeaway from this material?
Well, I think the reason why it caught my attention is because you were coming to talk and I just saw the headline. So
Okay.
I thought this is interesting because the first slide, the top part, AI service, I think I'm gonna wait until you talk about AI service. How is it different from running your own software?
Yeah.
How is it different from SaaS and all that? Because I think this chart shows that people are spending money on AI as a service through third party and also in-house running their own software. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And these numbers here are pretty staggering. These investments have gone up from, in 2025, about a half $500 billion, a little less, to, approaching $1 trillion of investment on AI as a service. And you can see the software is a little bit behind that, but not that much. And so huge amounts of investment going into this. And this is again is if there's one word or two words as a takeaway for this whole talk, adjustment period. We are going through an adjustment period. It's impossible to predict the future. So a lot of things we're just going through this adjustment period. But we can say some things, and I'll try to uh, mention some of those in this talk. So I thought this Sequoia piece was the one that people might want to start with because back in the 1970s, I guess, Levitt, he was a professor at um, Harvard, and he basically said, you know, um, uh, people don't want to buy a drill. They want a hole, you know, because that's really what they're, the outcome they're after. And it's interesting to think about, do I want to, do I want to buy a lawnmower or do I want my lawn mowed? Right? So, a lot of us have a service that mows, takes care of our yard and stuff like that. We want the outcome. We don't want to buy the tools. But this report by Sequoia did us a service by the interesting thing about a service is you can insource it or outsource it. If you're a business, you can do it yourself or you can pay for it. If you're a homeowner, you can do it yourself, mow your lawn, in which case you do have to buy the tools. Or you can outsource it as a service. And they looked at the different industries, and came up with the TAM, the total addressable market for these. And, these are approximations, but I really liked how they kind of laid it out in this 2 by 2 table with insourced, outsourced, things that require more judgment and things that are just kind of getting automated quickly with that are just intelligence. So really, I think that's the big distinction here on AI as a service is as a service outcomes, and the as a service model. Typically, you want the outcome, and you're willing to pay for someone else to do the work and have the good judgment. Like even a yard service, they know what kind of fertilizer to put down. They know what are the right tools for the hedge versus the grass versus the trees. So you pay for that expertise and judgment and you get an outcome. That's the service versus, doing the tool and do it yourself. Um, Now, in that thing I mentioned earlier, there's this notion of owners. Who owns the tool, right? Because if you're getting it as a service, as a digital service, there's somebody that's owning that service, and they're the ones that are creating the value propositions. I thought this was really interesting. This came out just yesterday in the Neuron, which is a fantastic daily newsletter. If you're not subscribed to this, actually, Steve, your dean at San Jose State University was the one who first told me about the Neuron Daily, and I appreciate her advice because it's a really great newsletter. But in today's newsletter, they talked about the proposal by Bernie Sanders to have the public own 50%, to be co-owners of this technology and benefit from the upside. So I thought that's kind of an interesting um, thing to keep an eye out on is who are the owners and how does that ownership model, what's the adjustment period for the owners on this technology? Um, Again, the series is called AI as a Service. I wrote a paper in 2015 with Guru Banavar called Cognition as a Service, which is something that some people might want to go back and read. It's an AI magazine. Again, I wrote it with Guru Banavar, who was a vice president of AI research at IBM at the time when we wrote this paper together. And it highlights a lot of the adjustment period things at the macro level, the meso level, and the micro level. So the societal, the business, and the individual level. So you might want to take a look at this paper for some historical perspective. But in 2024, Mayfield, which is another venture capital firm like Sequoia, one of the big ones here in Silicon Valley, they came out with a cognition as a service write-up about the rise of digital assistants and coworkers, and they compared it to infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and now cognition as a service is the new one in their series. So again, these are just two resources, I think, for those who are interested in this concept of AI as a service. You might want to also check out this cognition as a service. Now, in today's talk, and I'm not going to go through this in a great deal of detail, the slides will be uploaded, but again, the one takeaway from everything I'm saying is AI as a service, AI in general, is going through an adjustment period. And that adjustment period has three components. Um, it's got a advancing technological component, which is about increasing capabilities. And as I said, from my perspective, being an AI researcher most of my life for decades, today's AI isn't very good compared to where it will be. Um, it makes too many errors, it uses too much energy, it's built unethically, it doesn't have good explanation capabilities, on and on and on. There's problems with AI technology today, even as wonderful as it is for certain tasks like summarization and responding to any question. I mean, it's really made some remarkable advances, but it's nowhere near as good as it's going to be in 5 years or 10 years. And I've got some slides that'll help drive that home. So this adjustment period, we're going to see increasing capabilities. The other thing we're going to see is new types of business models. And these business models aren't going to just be on the spectrum of do I want the tool or do I want the outcome, which I think is a great uh, thing to think about in terms of business models. But we're going to see some really, really different business models coming out of this area. And I'll just say, I'll hint at some of those later, but dramatically different business model possibilities in this AI era. And finally, because of the harms that can come, bad actors using AI, um, you know, kids getting access to imperfect AI, giving them bad advice, patients getting bad access, all kinds of when your AI is not so good and it's making a lot of errors and there's no judgment or supervision, all kinds of harms can come. So we're going to see some societal rule changes, kind of like that one I hinted at with Bernie, which kind of affects both the business model, who owns it, and the societal stuff if his bill really does get passed. But that's kind of the big thinking that you're going to see through this adjustment period. You're going to see, really big thinking, wild ideas, and some of those wild ideas may become reality because we're going through this adjustment period. Now, I think Cecilia, if she was here, she said, Jim, the reason I wanted you to be my first speaker is because I know you've been doing AI for a long time. And that is true. I was born in 1956 in Maine, and the first AI conference when the field got its name was the Dartmouth Conference in New Hampshire, just across the border in 1956. And I studied AI with Marvin Minsky at MIT when I was there. My first job was at an AI startup company doing mathematical models of speech and language. I got my PhD in artificial intelligence, computer science from Yale. And at Apple, I did AI and multimedia. And at IBM, my last job was leading open source AI. So yes, I happen to be one of those people who, you know, didn't come to AI in the last few years. I've been working with this field for pretty much my whole life, for decades, over 50 years. Um, However, I think Cecilia also wanted me because of my work with service science and the fact that I do think about service innovation as not just technological capabilities, but the business models associated with them and the societal rule changes that have to happen. So I won't spend much time on this slide, but these are the two areas that I've focused most of my career on is artificial intelligence and service science. And one is about generations of smarter machines, and one is about generations of smarter people, really smarter people, businesses, and nations, responsible actors. Um, but I want you to understand this adjustment period because some people think, oh, it's an adjustment period, and they're thinking very incrementally. No, we're going through an adjustment period that's very profound. What things look like on the other side of this adjustment period may be very, very different from than they look for today. When I was a kid growing up, in the 50s and 60s, transistor radios were the new thing, right? You could carry around this little device and listen to music anywhere. And the previous generation of radios had tubes. No way you were going to carry it around. And if it broke, you had to replace the tubes. I mean, that's the scale of technological capability we're going to see. We're going to look back at the AI today and think, this was so ancient. This was like tube-based AI, not the good AI that's coming. So I just want you to really have that, and I have other examples of, old technologies and new technologies. But we are making advances. So this was the proposal in 1955 for the first AI conference. There's Marvin Minsky. He was at Harvard at the time. He left and went to MIT. Um, John McCarthy, I knew him. He came out to Stanford. These were the founding fathers. You can see Nathan Rochester from IBM. These are the founding fathers of the field of artificial intelligence. And they thought during the summer they were going to make big progress on four goals. Well, guess what? It took almost 70 years, but all four of those goals were met when OpenAI came out with ChatGPT. So that 70 years of progress, though, in the next 5 or 10 years, we're going to make, you know, much, much more progress than has been made in the past. But the three problems are current AI uses too much energy, it makes too many errors, and the ethics, how it's built, is unethical. It's stealing property, basically. But all three of these can be addressed as technical problems. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, all of these will be solved. And we're going to be left with some good benefits, access to expertise, insanely great labor productivity for trusted service providers, and that trusted word is very important. We're going to be able to make insanely great collaborations with other people, better choices about collaboration. So these are the two benefits that I see coming. But the risks, a lot of people worry about job loss. I'm not so worried about that, but I am worried about deskilling. And some people are worried about superintelligence, machines taking over. I'm not worried about that, but I am worried about bad actors using this technology. Now, I'm just about finished here, but the four questions I think during this adjustment period, what can you do? What can you as an individual do to get through this adjustment period well? And I think you have to have good answers to these four questions. The first question is about your workers. What jobs would you assign to 100 highly skilled workers working for you? If you had 100 workers working for you and you want to make it through this adjustment period, well, if you're a professor, if you're a student, if you're an industry executive, if you're a programmer, you have to start thinking about what jobs you're going to assign 100 workers working for you. I know that sounds like a management executive job, but that's the transition we're going through is we're all going to have the power of over 100 workers working for us. And if we don't know what jobs to give them, that's going to be a problem. The second question I know is even more outlandish than the first. But again, I think if you're not thinking about this question, you're not going to make it through the adjustment period very well. Um, your twin, your digital twin, what jobs would you assign an AI digital twin of yourself? So, for example, I've written a lot of papers through my career, and I've assigned my twin the job of summarizing my papers and giving talks like I do on a paper that I've written in any language. It can be in German, French, Japanese, and I've actually used my digital twin, and there is a digital twin of me. It was on that first slide. That's getting better and better over time. And it's taking some of the routine tasks that I do and improving them and giving me more time to do things that I want to focus on. The third question, uh, what jobs do you assign yourself to keep up with accelerating change, to follow your career passions? And this is a very important job. You don't want to send your AI robot to the gym to exercise for you because what's the point in that? You know, you have to go and exercise yourself. So you still have to be improving and exercising. And so in addition to thinking about the jobs you give your workers, the jobs you give your digital twin of you, you have to think about what jobs do I give myself, the real hard work for me to learn. And this is a super important one. And the fourth question, I think this in many ways is the most important, but it's last, is what jobs can you and others work on together to accelerate learning that benefits the client? If there's anything about the world of service that we live in, you've got customers, you've got clients, you're giving and getting service. That's what it's all about. And so you really have to think about working with other people and how you communicate with other people. It's not just about the AIs, it's about who is your customer, what goals have you set for yourself, and who are you working into together with other people to and communicating with those people to work on that. I'm gonna stop there. I've got answers to all of these questions, but and there's a lot more slides in this deck. I'm not going to go through all of this, but you know, there's information in here about how I work with students and digital twins. I'll just flip through this quickly so you can see there's a lot more here dealing with the communication problems. So, and some of my other papers and what if things go wrong. um, but I will just stop here and stop my share. And Steve, you and I can have a nice discussion in the final 5 minutes. But that's what I wanted to say about AI as a service. And I'll make sure Cecilia gets this recording and can look it over as well.
Great. I really like your presentation. I think you highlight a lot of stuff. One part that you said was kind of resonate with me was that the AI is not perfect. I think in a few of my listening to other people talking, the one guy said is AI is artificial but not yet intelligent.
Yeah,
Okay. And one guy said was artificial idiot, but that's a little bit far.
yeah, yeah,
And you also mentioned something that is interesting. And the last slide you said that when you're working with your digital twins, you assign it to do your routine stuff, not the higher level stuff that it can replace your intelligence or things like that.
yes.
One other thing that I hear that you mentioned, but you did not specifically say that your AI thoughts were very human-centered,
Hmm.
right? In the sense that like Ben Snyderman stuff.
All right.
But I am hearing a lot of stuff that the humans are not doing their part in using AI, right? I mean, they're basically taking AI stuff and uses as is without any checking.
Yeah.
There are so many cases of lawyers not doing that. there was a case a couple of weeks ago. We hear about this guy who wrote a book about AI,
Yeah.
and people check him, and there were AI generated stuff in there.
Yeah.
That's embarrassing.
It is very embarrassing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when we first start using Google search for the internet, I was skeptical, and we teach our students to be skeptical and check your results.
That's right.
Now that we're not doing enough of that, I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. And recently there was CSU, the California State University System, signed another contract with ChatGPT to do a 5-year extension of their access to ChatGPT EDU.
Yeah.
But there were over 80 professors who signed a petition saying that we're not using it correctly and about students. So I think that on one hand we need to educate our students, the next generation of using this. On the other hand, should we be doing more in training them to be cognizant and skeptical and also diligently checking the results to make sure that they are at least within the realm of what we're doing. Because a lot of the AI stuff we're seeing, the hallucinations that basically say that, this result is past my threshold and I'm going to show it to you and people take it as truth. And that is bad.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my immediate comments in
Great.
in listening. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got about a minute left, so I'll just get it wrapped up. But I know in Finland, for example, as early as like kindergarten, 5-year-olds, they're teaching to be critical thinkers by asking, what's the source of the information? If you're going to ask, if there's one question, it's like, okay, I've heard something. What's the source of this information? And is it a rep? Do I know the person who's giving me this information? How well do I know the person? Where did they get the information? So checking sources and being critical and checking sources, that's a lot of the embarrassing stuff. I had somebody send me a paper for my review, and they said, "Oh, Jim, I've cited you in this paper," and they did. They cited me twice. One citation was correct. The other one was a hallucinated citation. I never wrote that paper, and I was kind to them. I didn't want them to feel terrible, but I said, I didn't write the second paper here. This is an AI hallucination. And they were, of course, like very apologetic. But that just shows if you're not going to be carefully checking stuff, you're going to get really embarrassed. And if it's in a legal or medical area, it could do great harm. So not just embarrassment, but real physical harm.
And
So,
students writing papers with AI help.
yeah,
Okay, and people are basically saying the professor is seeing too many papers that look similar, and
yeah.
they theoretically should get all A's. So
I agree. Well, thanks a lot, Steve, for making this
thank
fun.
you.
And I'll get this uploaded for Cecilia so she and the others can see it. And we'll have other speakers coming up in the series. You'd be a great speaker in this series. I think Martin Fleming, maybe from the former chief economist of IBM, he would be another person who helps our community that would be good in this series. I'm sure we'll have a lot of great speakers. And as you said, maybe Ben Schneiderman, even. He's got that human-centered.
Yep, I subscribe to his work. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. So yeah, I think we can all, I guess my closing remark is even though Cecilia is not here, she'll be looking for future speakers. So let's give her suggestions and help her make this speaker series successful. All right.
Thank you. Nice
Thanks.
seeing
Steve.
you.
Good
Bye.
seeing you. Bye for now.